All right, well, welcome everyone to today's Talk with Doc. Today we are going to be talking on chronic pain and how to come alongside those with chronic pain. And our guest today is my friend Joanna French, and she's a parent, a ministry leader, and also a sufferer of chronic pain. This is also a topic I'm able to speak on personally, as I deal with chronic pain as well. So I think people would be amazed how many people deal with chronic pain and have no idea about it. For those who are going to be listening and watching with us on Zoom, you can go ahead and, if you have questions, put it in the chat or the Q&A, and we'll bring those in. If you're watching with us on Facebook Live, go ahead and you can put those in the chat, and we'll be following those on Facebook Live there with that. So without further ado, let me hand over to Joanna, and go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us all about you and what you do.
So my name is Joanna French, like you said, and I am the special needs pastor at Flint Hills Church in Junction City, Kansas. I have two boys with disabilities. Both of them are autistic, but one of them has other more complex delays as well. And then I just really have a heart for like all of God's people. And I have recently, in the last 5 years, just started struggling with chronic pain. There was a traumatic event that caused an onset for my fibromyalgia. And I don't like to compare, but the doctor said it's more severe than most cases he's seen. And so I don't remember the last day I wasn't in pain. So pain has just become a part of my life. Yeah.
And then you also run, like you said, disability ministry too. So working with families. For me, with my chronic pain, I actually have a bone spur that's going into the middle of my back, near my spinal cord, that is kind of in an area that's very difficult to operate. It causes me quite a bit of pain there, and it's not necessarily inoperable, but there's going to be a lot of complications with doing surgery. So as a result, I live with daily pain with my back. It wakes me up frequently at night. And then on top of that, I was hit by a drunk driver 5 years ago, and ended up with severe whiplash and severe concussion, have short-term memory loss ever since then, and still have severe headaches, migraine headaches, as well as the whiplash neck pain that I've got from that, of which I have to get Botox injections every 3 months for that. So the back of my neck looks like I'm 20 years old. It's amazing. I'm trying to convince them to use it on my face, but that's not worked yet with it. So bottom line, chronic pain can be a whole variety of things, fibromyalgia to, whatever. It can affect all ages, all socioeconomic groups. It can affect anybody and everybody. You can be in the best health possible, and in a blink of an eye, something can happen, and you can end up with chronic pain. Like I said, I get hit by a drunk driver, and that happened.
Yes.
So you never know what's going to happen, and that could work. We have no idea for those who are ministry leaders out there, and we have many of our families are dealing with chronic pain. Many of our parents who are parents of our individuals with disabilities, they not only are they taking care of individuals with special needs, they themselves are dealing with chronic pain, which you fit in that boat, Joanna, so you can very much speak into that with it. So I just want to make sure everyone realizes this affects millions of people around the world. And I promise you, there are people, in your family, neighbors all around, who truly are going to be affected by this. So we just need to be aware of that. So let's kind of jump into some of it. One of the biggest parts with chronic pain is, for the person dealing with chronic pain, it can really play a toll mentally. Why don't you go into that some? What's what is it like mentally for a person dealing with a chronic pain?
It's exhausting. It's every day. And it's like you're never enough. And I think for me, one of the bigger things, I serve as a special needs pastor. I know, what it is to be disabled. And I worked with disabled children, already half my life when this, occurred, because I have siblings with disabilities and such too. And for me, it was coming to terms with the fact that I was disabled and that I am. And it was so hard. And I found that interesting because I don't view disability as a negative thing, as something that makes somebody less. But I almost felt myself, and I still do sometimes, feeling like I am not enough because of the pain and because I can't do everything. And then I also have other diagnoses. So I was severely abused as a child. And so when you take the PTSD and you blend it with the chronic pain, the level of just heightened anxiety and the depression that comes with it, and it's just this constant feeling of I'm not enough. And it's so hard because there are practical things that need done, and it just exacerbates everything that I already struggle with. It just makes it more in your face and more complicated. My PTSD comes from abuse. And so the pain can be triggering, especially during heightened times of PTSD, for those flashbacks. But also, if you just look at the day-to-day life, it's feeling isolated and alone and like you're not good enough. And it's just this constant, if I was not hurting, I could do more.
Mm. Yeah. And so that's important for everyone to remember, just how hard it is mentally. And I know I've talked with several people, and for me, again, for those that don't know out there, I'm actually am a real physician. I had been a pediatrician, pediatric ER doctor, and I've worked with a lot of individuals with chronic pain. And it's hard to deal with, from a medical standpoint too, on trying to figure that out. So there are so many, aspects to chronic pain.
Oh, I'm sorry.
One of the biggest parts with the chronic pain, though, is how it then affects your family and how it affects your friends. So why don't we take a little bit of time and just start unpacking that, as that's a really big one. So let's start with family first, since that's the biggest one. Then we can get into life with friends. So why don't we go there?
So when you look at me, you can't tell that I'm hurting. A lot of people with chronic pain, we mask really well. We hide it really well. And so my husband, it's exacerbating for him, because I will go from 2 or 3 days of not complaining and just pushing through the pain. And we have to, right? We have to push through the pain. And then it'll be an evening and I'll look at him and I'll just be like, I need you. And he's like, what? And I'll just start crying because I'm tired and the pain. I can't sleep at night from the pain. It's a pretty consistent issue with it. And so it affects him both mentally, because he can't fix it, but also he can't understand it because he doesn't live it. It's one thing to have this view of, I know what it's like to hurt, but it's completely different when it's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The injury that caused the onset for my personal disability, it's been 3 years. And it's just been so hard for him because it's not something you can see. It's not like a broken leg that will heal. It doesn't ever go away.
Yeah.
And it's so frustrating for him. There are days that, he'll come to give me a hug and I'll pull away, and it just breaks his heart because it hurts too much. I can't be held, and it breaks his heart, and it definitely makes him feel like, he's doing something wrong, and that's not fair to him. But there's nothing that I can particularly do to fix it either.
Right.
And my husband's told me before, it's exhausting knowing that there's nothing I can do to make it better. Especially I think this is probably more prevalent for men, not that women don't feel this too, but men are the caretakers of their wives. They're supposed to help support and build up and help them be stronger, and they fix things. That is just the mentality of most men. I'm going to make it better, and there's nothing he can do. And that is so frustrating. And it gets to a point where sometimes he copes with it by being overly attentive. And sometimes he copes with it by not being able to handle being attentive. And I think we have to make space as chronic pain sufferers for our spouses to have days where they're like, I can't carry this right now. And to have a support system outside your spouse that you can go to and be like, I'm not okay. Because their mental health matters just as much as ours does.
Yeah, so I think, for those that don't know, especially with Joanna, as she shared, she has fibromyalgia. Sometimes with that, it's simply just the touch that sets off, the pain. Where me, I'm completely different. I mean, my pain's all internal. That doesn't affect me with that. So, for me, with my family, where mine's more affects them is I really don't get good rest. And so, I may end up, after several nights, like, I may have been up all night just tossing and turning because my back is just absolutely killing me or my head's going crazy. And then especially if there's major weather changes, that really sets my head off. And so there's not a whole lot able to do with that. And you just suffer through that. And so after a few days of not getting a lot of sleep, I hate to admit, but it's life. You get grumpy and get short and so family ends up getting on the short end of that. So just being open and talking through that and having that understanding with everything. And then at the same time, for me, I've had to learn I can't do everything I used to do. Especially with my back, I try to do things, and if I do a little too much, I'm going to pay for it for quite a while. And so, my wife's been great. She jumps in and she'll do a ton of stuff that I feel, again, like you're saying, I feel I should be doing as the man of the house and that, but I just physically can't be doing it if I want to be able to function for the next few days. So it's knowing your boundaries, knowing what you can and what you can't do, and communicating that, being extremely open to everything. And for those out there who have chronic pain, you've got to communicate that with your family and be willing to let others help you and do things. And you can't feel like you have to do everything yourself. And I'll speak as the man. You can't man up and just go through everything, because that does not make things better. Sometimes it makes things worse with it. And know that sometimes, again, exactly like Joanna's saying, sometimes there's nothing you can do. But in those cases, the most important thing to do is just to be there, and to let your spouse, let your loved one know that you care for them, you love them, and you'll help them through whatever it is, however it is. I know, I'm sure when your husband does that for you, that means so much to you, that you can't even put it into words. So, how about then with friends?
Can I talk about my kiddos
Yes.
real quick?
Yes. I'm sorry. Absolutely. Yes. Thank you. I skipped the kids, and that's a huge factor.
They're not that important, really.
Sometimes we try to forget the kids, but we don't want to forget them here.
For my boys, it's definitely been a learning curve because they're old enough to remember mom healthy. And we've never hidden their disability from them. We've never talked about autism like it's a bad thing. It's just been, this is how God made you.
Absolutely.
And so for my boys, my youngest is a very physical, touch-based little boy. He wants to be held and he wants to be loved. He also happens to be my biggest. He stands almost 5 foot and is 100 pounds at 9 years old. And he just wants to climb up on me and have me hold him. And he still wants me to carry him. And it's not feasible. And so for him, it breaks my heart, but it hurts him. It hurts him. And it's just this conversation of, I know other parents can, but I can't. And it's not because I don't love you, and it's not because you're not important. It's I can't. And then with my oldest, he has, they're autistic. I'm sorry if I get emotional.
You're
They're
fine.
both autistic, and they're delayed in so many areas. But we were at an appointment the other day, and I went to stand up after talking to the doctor for a while, and I could barely catch my stance because I fall a lot too with it. And my 11-year-old is grabbing me and trying to catch me. And as much as that shows that he is a loving, genuinely good child, it is not fair to him to think he has to take care of me. And there are days that, it's just something as simple as, well, Mom, I want to go to the park. And I can't. I can't.
Right.
And it's, days where it's, Mom, can we have enchiladas? And I don't know if you've ever made enchiladas, but they take a long time to make. And it's just little things that most kids don't have to deal with. And it makes me feel like, and I know it's not true, I always tell people that feelings are transient, they come and they go, but your facts are forever. And the fact is that there's a reason God gave me my children. There's a reason that they're here in my home. But my feelings tell me I'm a bad mom because I can't be everything that I would want to be for them. And even though it's not true, it's unfair to them to have to deal with this. And, one of the things coming from an abuse background that I always planned on doing was giving my kids this amazing childhood. And maybe not money based, but, going out to a lake and going and hanging out in a tent and crafting and going to parks and all these things. And realistically, so much of that is not an option for me. What I would say, probably a positive side for both my children and my husband, is that this chronic pain journey has made them more accountable on praying for others. So my husband, when he can't do anything, one of the things I tell him is just love me and pray for me. And the kids have picked that up. And so when Caden gets upset because Mommy can't hug him right now, my son Jeremy will be like, it's okay, love her and pray for her. That's all you have to do is love her and pray for her. And God's job to take care of the rest, Caden.
Yeah.
And it's so hard knowing that, we're never ever going to feel like we can do enough for our kids, right?
Right.
But I don't want my 11-year-old to feel like he has to take care of me. And even those little things, we talk about our family as a team. And when a team member gets hurt, the other team members take on the slack. And it's little conversations like my 11-year-old is big enough to carry down the laundry and I can't without falling down our stairs. And so Jeremy will tell you he's laundry team member because he carries it down. And it's just little things like that I recognize that kids should have chores and responsibilities, but it's different when you can't do it. So.
Yeah, no question. And you're right. A lot of times, children of a parent who are suffering with chronic pain are, I don't know if forced is the right word, but are forced to grow up a little bit quicker. And like you said, end up doing things that, you may not ask them to do. Maybe you wouldn't ask them to do at that age normally, but out of necessity, you have to. That's kind of life and with it, and just kind of being part of the family. So yes, thank you for sharing that and bringing up those important parts. So let's bring in the friends now and talk about friends.
So I have an amazing group of friends. My friends are so close, it's like family. And, some of them I work with at the church, obviously. And so, like, for example, our ever patient and ever wonderful lead pastor, him getting used to the fact that with the pain comes brain fog, and I'm not going to remember everything, and tasks may be incomplete. I know logically that that's frustrating to him, but he has so much grace and so much acceptance for it. And he really is one of my closer friends. And then I have, the more emotional side is my friends who are ladies. they want so bad to fix it. And they want so bad to make the pain go away. And I can't tell you how many times I've had a friend say, if I could just take it to give you a day off, you know, to give you one day with your family where you can go make memories with your kiddos and it not be mom needs to stop.
Mm-hmm.
My friends have gotten used to the fact that I have to cancel sometimes.
Right.
Well, I just can't today. I'm sorry. And, you know, I like going on hikes and I like going out to places like waterfalls and lakes and things like that. I don't like bugs, but pretty much everything else I'm okay with. And having to cancel on friends with stuff like that so often, sometimes it feels like the only thing I can consistently do with friends is go eat. And it's frustrating because I want to be fun and bubbly and I want to be the Joanna before chronic pain, because even through the other disabilities I had, the PTSD, the learning disabilities, and everything that I have had and dealt with my whole life, I was still joyful and I was still bubbly and I was still in everything with just, I don't have another word but joy. But when you hurt all the time, I try really hard, but I've become more cynical. And it you know, obviously, as a pastor, God is my strength. Da, 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 da. There's all these phrases people use, but that doesn't take away the struggle. And unfortunately, we're fallen and we're not perfect. And so, like you said, I get frustrated and I get irritated, and I'm just not as fun anymore. And that's got to be hard. I mean, so many of my friends are like, "You're so strong." I've got friends who call me Superwoman all the time. And yeah, I'm strong, but I'm not the me I would like to be. And even on my best day, you know, they can't explain why, but my pain is as such that on an average day, I run about a 7 on the pain scale. And my nerves overreact, and it's touch based, but it's also like my skin will just feel like it's burning when I'm walking. And it's, you know, I've been exercising because I just want to maintain my body and keep my strength. And what most people feel like that muscle burn, it literally feels like my muscles are on fire. And it's not like a small pain like it used to be. It's overwhelming, and it wraps around my body, and it just is what it is. And so my friends, they struggle watching me go through that, and it's a mental weight on them. And that, it's terrible because it feels like everybody you're around, you take joy out of the room. And no matter how much you try to mask it or fake it, if they know you, you know, I like I said, I'm a pastor and I'll be standing at the pulpit and I will be able to mask my pain for almost everyone. But if I look down at the 2 or 3 people I'm closest to in the church, they always know. And you can see the pain in their eyes. And that's heartbreaking to me.
Yeah.
And for them, it's just, I know what it's like to watch friends suffer. You just want to fix it. You just want to help. And they're in the same boat as my husband. All they can do is love me and pray. Which, as a pastor, maybe it's not right to say all they can do is pray, but
it's a lot.
It feels like that sometimes to us, is we're not fixing it. So. Yeah,
well, I think we've got a question that came in. I think now's a perfect time to bring it up. And Leanne asks, I have a friend with advanced MS. I know he is in pain, and most days he's unable to do anything but sit in his recliner. I don't know how to start a conversation. I can't say, how are you doing or what's new? So when you've got a friend who has chronic pain and dealing with that, how can you just start a conversation with them to do things without, you know, making them feel bad or just dealing with the pain issues?
So I find that when people ask me, how are you? I give thank answers, right? We just get, I'm fine. And it's very American. But I think that one of the things you can do, at least this is what I do when I know somebody's struggling. I ask them first, so I'll say hi, and they'll be like, what has brought you joy today? And if they don't have anything, then how can we bring you joy? And then also, I try to just always redirect things back to what people are thankful for,
Mm.
because it's really easy to get stuck in this mindset of this isn't fair. You know, MS is so debilitating that you can be stuck and it's degenerative. So you go downhill consistently. And that is different than what I have, which will pretty much plateau at this. I will still be able to walk. It'll hurt, but I can walk. If we can redirect our conversations from, hey, how are you? Oh, you're good. That's good. To, hey, I know that what you're going through is hard, but let's focus on something that's good. And then also still making a space for them to be like, man, this is horrible. It's not fair. It doesn't make sense. We've got to provide a space for our friends to be honest. And so I would redirect to something positive, you know, ask them about something joyful. I don't care if it's a TV show that made them laugh today, but then I would also just let them know, if you need a place to complain, I'm safe. And then obviously from a faith perspective, then bring them back to the hope that this isn't eternal.
Yeah.
This isn't where we're going to be stuck with forever, and that it's going to be okay. And that the word says that God works out all things to the good of those who love him. Now, it sounds like a platitude. And when you're hurting all the time, and I say it, you know, I'll say, you know, I know God works out all things to the good of those who love him. That doesn't change the fact that this doesn't feel good right now. And so there needs to be a balance between, hey, it's okay that this isn't fun, and
Right.
God's still good in it all, and he still got you.
Right.
Just giving them a place. So reframing your conversation from how are you to what do you need? How can I help? Or what is it that's brought you joy? Just trying to be intentional about how we phrase things, because the fact is, if I answer honestly, and I'm sure it's the same for him, how are you? I'm hurting. I'm tired. I'm frustrated, and I don't want to have to deal with this anymore. But that doesn't change the fact that this is what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And we still one life to live, and you've got to find joy, and you've got to lean on God. And I'm sorry if I'm over spiritualizing it, but I'm a pastor, and that's just what I've landed on.
Yeah, no, nothing to apologize there. That's good. You know, and especially in this specific question, you know, when you know frequently they're stuck in a chair and just able to do it, you know, I agree. A lot of times, you know, kind of our go-to, how are you doing today? You know, what's new with you? Yeah, you're going to get a lot of fake answers, because, you know, the person with chronic pain at the same time doesn't want to dump on everyone, doesn't want to complain, because everyone's got enough going on, and everyone has their own issues, that, you know, you just don't want to, you know, vomit all over someone with your problems. But, you know, one way you might be able to start the question, especially for this individual, knowing they're stuck in their chair a lot, hey, have you seen any good TV shows lately? You know, I guarantee you that's going to be able to start a conversation. Because if he's stuck in a chair, he's probably watching some TV, or maybe, hey, have you read any good books lately? And that can start whole other conversations, and gets minds off of the pain. And not that you're trying to ignore the pain, or not address the elephant in the room there, but we all know it exists there. But there's still that friendship. There's still that relationship. We need to get to that. But it's also okay to just sit there as a friend. Hey, I know you're struggling. How are you really doing today? And, you know, if you're a true friend and really caring for them, it's absolutely okay. You know, and I'm sure, you know, like Joanna was saying, some of your good friends really do probably ask you, hey, how are you really doing today? Because they really care about you and they want to know. You know, I would say for me, you know, today's probably the first time that most people are hearing that I'm even dealing with chronic pain. Because like you said earlier, most of the time everyone's able to mask it. Everyone knows I deal with a lot because I'm almost always in a brace or something, because I'm Doc and I just I'm a klutz. Let's just put it that way. But this is beyond that with it. So, your previous comments there kind of lead us right into our next portion of this, and dealing with chronic pain, being able to cope with it. What I have found, and what I think you have found as well, is leaning on our faith, leaning on God to help us through. So why don't you talk now about bringing God, bringing our faith into the picture to be able to cope and make it through chronic pain?
Okay, so I have a friend, this is just a little short thing, but I have a friend who calls me Joanna because she's like, your life is so much like Job's. And I'm like, please don't give me that. I don't want that. I'm really hoping that there hasn't been a, have you tried my servant Joanna? I'm not in the mood. I like my kids. I want to keep them. But his story has brought me a lot of peace. God taught me a long time ago that suffering is not necessarily a punishment. It's not necessarily a sin that we've done. But sometimes, and man, I get a lot of responses to this, but it's a reward for faithfulness. And it sounds like craziness, but if you look at Job and what he did go through, and I think in small scales, we'll see this throughout, everybody's faith walk, but have you tried this? Have you noticed that my servant's still faithful? And so I've tried to look at the chronic pain as just the sign that, this is something God trusts me with. And he knows that I'm going to choose him even when it's hard. But also, I think it shows us that it's okay to ask why, and that won't be a sin. It's okay to be like, God, this doesn't make sense. When I was injured, that onset, the fibromyalgia, I had just finished my first year and my first level of ministry credentials. I had been serving in special needs ministry for almost 3 years. Everything was finally starting going. We just had our first respite night. Everything was starting to go the way it was supposed to go. And then I'm disabled. And it really affects the way, I do everything. So I was like, what is up with that, God? It makes no sense. You called me to ministry to disable me. Thanks. And it also points to us that even if people fail us, because if you know Job's friends, God doesn't fail us. It shows us that everyone suffers and that God's goodness is not contingent on our comfort. And if we are worshiping God just because of our comfort, then it's not worship. It's appeasement, and there's a difference. And then it also just reminds me that this life is not about me. It's not about my comfort. Chronic pain is no fun. It's horrible. It's terrible. But it also, realistically, I don't view it as any different than a missionary picking up their cross and going to a new country and having to adjust their entire life. I am where I am in the position that I'm in because God can use it. And if that's a kingdom win, then let's do it, because this is not eternal, but there is an eternal future out there that matters, and that maybe this will help somebody find Christ.
Yeah.
And then I think in the end, I've learned that if God doesn't heal you, because I believe God is a healer, I really do. But if God doesn't heal you, he'll sustain you. And that is such a big deal. And then the only other comment that really is close to me on that, when I'm up on the stage and I am preaching, and I have a day like time before last when I was preaching, I was up on the stage and I was just teaching, and I just finished a respite night the day before, which is a big toll on my body. And it just so happened that in our church schedule, I was stacked to preach the next time. And I'm standing there and I can feel my body trying to give out and trying to fall. And the pain level is insanely high. And I've got tears in my eyes as I'm preaching. And this is just the first minute or two, but there's this moment where God just takes over. And I think that that's not just applicable in preaching. I think that as believers, we'll recognize that when I can't, when it doesn't make any sense why I've been able to do this, God makes a way where there is no way. And I don't care if that's preaching or if that's street ministry or if that's doing the dishes at home. When you are doing something that is not in your own strength in that moment, you have to recognize that that is God and that matters.
Yeah.
And so I guess anybody who's struggling with chronic pain, I hope that they know that God is holding them, God is caring for them, but also even if they're never healed, he will sustain them. He will help them get through this.
Absolutely. 100% guarantee. I can speak for myself as well. As I, put on camps and put on respites and all that, God sustains me through all of those things. And I don't realize how sore I am during those times. I completely forget about it because, God just puts it out of my mind and kind of blocks it. And then it's like, as soon as everyone's gone, it's like, hits me. I'm like, oh, yowzers. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to be feeling this. But yet after doing, all of God's work with that, it's like, oh, but this is so worth it. That was such a blessing to be able to do. And the only other thing, I do want to say, faith is a huge part. And I think it's a massive part to be able to cope with any part of life, no matter what's going on. I can't imagine making it through life without my personal relationship with Jesus Christ. No matter what's going on, it doesn't have to be just chronic pain. It can be anything. We all have trials and tribulations in our life. And I'll tell you right now, from my personal experience in my life, Jesus makes it all better and makes it easier to handle. It doesn't mean life is always going to be a bowl of cherries. It doesn't mean you can't get mad at God. I've had plenty of times in my life I've flat out been pissed off at God and been as mad as I can. But every time God has been faithful to me. And there are times where, we may say, God, where are you? I'm sitting here, I'm struggling and I'm hurting, or this is going on, or that's going on. And I can say for my life, especially, and for most people I've helped through this, God has never left you. It's that we've taken our eyes off of him. He's always been there, right there with us. And it's as soon as we put our eyes back on him and see that he's right there, and all he's waiting for us to do is ask him to pick us up and carry us, put us on his back, and he'll do it. And he really will, and he'll help us through. And so, remember, it's okay. And I love how you said it's okay to be angry at God, but it's not living there. It's not staying there. It's for a time, and knowing that, God's got a perfect plan, a will for our lives. And I know, everything going on with me is all part of his plan and purpose. I may not always understand all of it, and I definitely may not like it, but it's part of his plan and purpose. And we just need to trust God as we move forward with it.
One of the coolest things I've seen is I believe in transparency, and especially from the pulpit, in my opinion. So I believe in being honest and open with what I struggle with. And that is the depression, the PTSD, all of it. And I noticed that after I openly said on the pulpit, I hurt all the time. And guys, I would appreciate your prayers. I'm tired and I'm frustrated, and I'm sorry if I'm short with you. It's a bad pain day, but I love you all. And I know that you guys all care. I had that one, the first time I mentioned it, I had 5 women come up to me and say, I didn't know it was okay to talk about that. Of course it is.
Yeah.
This should be the safest place to talk about anything. And I think for me, probably my go-to scripture for anybody who's struggling with chronic pain, although I love Job, would definitely be, I can't think of the reference right now because the brain fog, but my power is made perfect in weakness. 3 times Paul asked for the thorn in the flesh to be taken away. And God said no, because his power is made perfect in our weakness. So we can find hope in the fact that when we're falling apart and when we're not enough, that God's power is made perfect in that. And that we have this chance to be a beacon shining God's light just because we love him and we're willing.
Absolutely. Amen. Amen. All right. Well, let's continue, move on. Let's get into treatment plans and possibilities. What's there?
So there are definitely two different views of treatments. There are people who are all pharmaceutical based, and there's definitely people who are all essential oil and other health based. For me, I think it's important to preferences. I'm not opposed to either side. If it works for you, go with it. And I get a lot of grief for the fact that I've chosen not to medicate. And I want you to understand that the reason I chose not to is I have a family history of significant addiction. And the pharmaceuticals are so addicting that I was just like, oh, I don't think I've had people tell me, well, clearly you don't mind the pain that much if you're willing to not take medication. And it's not that, it's looking at this fact that I don't want my babies growing up with an addict like I did. And I love my parents, but it's just both sides of my family are constantly addicts anyways. But for me, I think with the treatment side, the most important thing is if it is prescribed by a doctor or if it is legal and it helps, let them do it. But please, please don't come up to me and be like, well, if you just tried this, it would take all the pain away, because you don't know. Every body works differently.
Right.
And also, we have to have a fair amount of grace in this field. We do. We just have to recognize that people are hurting, and that if you don't have chronic pain, it's really hard to imagine what it's like to hurt 24 hours a day. And the way I explain my pain to people, it's like a tooth pain all over your body all the time. And sometimes it gets worse and sometimes it gets a little better, but it never goes away. And so if we look at it from that perspective, of course, people want to do something. And so, I always tell people when they're dealing with somebody who's taking prescription medications, it is okay to watch for signs of addiction, because sometimes people don't realize when it's happening.
Right.
But it is not okay to tell them they should not be seeking medication. And for the love of the Lord, I did not want to say it that way, it just came out. Please don't tell me to believe harder. I get that. I had a really bad pain day, and there were some other Christ followers around me, and some of them would almost be like the matriarchs of the group, if you know what I mean. And 3 of them stopped me and they were like, well, if you just prayed, if you just believed, if you just repented, God would heal you. And I looked at them and I was like, do you recognize the flaw in your theology? Do you recognize the fact that there were even people Jesus did not heal? There were places Jesus did not go. And it wasn't because he didn't love them, and it wasn't because they weren't valuable. And our pain is not necessarily a sign of some mistake we made. I'm reminded of John 9:1-3. Anyways, that being said, just please don't tell us to believe it better or to just think positively, but allow us to figure out what works for us. And, of course, brothers and sisters and friends and family in the chronic pain field, I've had them say, hey, are you ready? Because are you comfortable with me giving you some advice? Because I think I have something. That's different than, oh, try this. Oh, buy this, get this. It's different when people understand, but it's also a different view when people are like, are you okay with me talking to you about this? And just, I guess I would say, respect what doctors decide. If me and my doctor made an agreement that I would take narcotic medication to deal with my pain, then you have to trust that that doctor with that degree knows what they're talking about, because there are too many people out there. And this is not at all from a place of judgment. Too many people out there self-medicating with things like alcohol because they just want to numb it. And so if there's something healthier, I don't care if it's the essential oils, I don't care if it's other, natural remedies, or if it is narcotics. If there's something out there that will work and is safe, then let people use it and don't judge.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah. And so I'm the same. I don't currently use any treatment. I've tried some narcotics at the beginning and it doesn't help. So, why use something if it doesn't help? But I agree completely. Please don't ever judge somebody for what they're using or what they're doing. I'm a physician, so obviously I prefer the pharmaceutical side. That's how I've been trained and grew up. However, I'm going to appreciate and not judge anyone who's using the essential oils or CBD. That's a big thing. And you know what? It helps a lot of people. Or just flat out, straight up medical marijuana. If it works for them and they're getting comfort from them, okay. And we are not in any position to judge at all. Not until you've walked in their shoes. And even then, we're not supposed to judge. We're told not to judge in scripture. Instead, we need to comfort, we need to come alongside and see how we can help, but not judge. And know there are so many different things out there, and different things work for everybody. It's not our job to sit there and try to figure that out. Same thing for the church. It's not our job to sit there and say, oh, oh my gosh, you're using medical marijuana, you can't be part of our church now, or you can't, you're using CBD oil, you can't be here. No, I'm sorry, there's nowhere in scripture that says, marijuana is a sin. It's not, it doesn't say that. And I'm not sitting here saying I'm pro that. I'm saying we've got to sit here and support the person and not what they're doing.
I would say for me, that example with the medical marijuana, I'm not anti-medical marijuana. I've never been a big fan of people recreationally using alcohol, let alone marijuana, but it's up to you what you do, right? And I think for me, that goes back to that scripture. Again, I can't get the address for you because the brain fog is great, but if it's not written in scripture, then let your brother decide what the Holy Spirit is telling him.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I will not go door to door and tell you to try this. And I think it's unfair. And there are essential oils that we know help some things. Do they help as much as medication? I'm not here to decide that. I'm not a doctor. But it just goes down to respect us enough to trust our decisions. And if you do want to have a discussion, make sure we're at a place where we can handle that. Because if it's a bad pain day, it is not the time to come at me and tell me you should not be using that much ice.
Right. All right, let's move on. How can we help those who are dealing with chronic pain?
Oh man, number one for me, please believe it's real. Don't question me. I know you can't see it. I know it's not obvious. I know I'm not bleeding, but I hurt. And I wouldn't make it up. I don't want this kind of attention. I don't want to deal with this all the time. Nobody's interested in just falling. Just trust me that it's real. And then of course, pray. And I know, especially for people who are not believers, that seems kind of silly, but I would say that if you can do anything to be encouraging, whether it is praying or it's just listening, do that. As I mentioned earlier, don't tell us we don't have enough faith.
Yeah. Because
you don't know what it is that we've talked to God about or what it is God has said to us. Offer to do very, very practical things and then be okay with our answers. There are people who want to cook a meal, and frankly, I have so many allergies. So we have a very sweet family in our church who's Korean. I have a long list of allergies. They're like, can I cook you dinner? And I'm like, no, I'm allergic to half the food you cook. But I so appreciate it. And just be okay with us saying no, but don't be afraid to ask. I have a friend who I can text her and be like, I can't do whatever the cleaning thing is, mostly like scrubbing the baseboards, which bothers me because it gets muddy from my dogs. I can't do this. Will you help? And they'll come over and help in a practical way. Being willing to be Martha when I can't be.
Yeah, it's good.
Because there's times that I can't. And then please don't touch without asking. I have some friends who are very much so physical touch people, and we're still working on the I'm not ready for a hug right now dynamic. And that's okay. I would say listening and then inviting us to things, and be okay if we have to cancel. Be forgiving about that, because it's not that we don't love you. It's not that we don't care. It's just too much for that day. And then recognize that my best and your best, Doc, is different on different days. Mm-hmm. There may be a day that I can figuratively move mountains, but there might be a day that I can't move my trash can. It really just depends on the day.
Right.
And please, I think the last thing I would say is recognize it's more than just pain. It's brain fog, it's exhaustion, it's confusion, it's feeling out of touch with my body. It's all these little things that add up to the fact that I am disabled. And I so desperately want people to understand that disabled is not a bad word. There is a part of me that is not working like everybody else, but that doesn't make me less or any inherent value less. Just because it doesn't work the same doesn't mean it doesn't work at all. And that's okay. I'm disabled, and it's taken me a while to just accept that fact. But, let me gauge what I can and can't do. And respect the fact when I say things like I'm disabled, that people are like, oh, no, honey, you're fine. No, I'm not. And that's okay.
Right. Right.
But I just think being willing to do those things is such a big deal. And I'm sure our other friends with chronic pain on here could add to that list. But I think for me, those are my most important things. No,
that's good. That's good. We're coming to the top of the hour, so let's just finish out with one final question. And I think this is important for everybody to hear and kind of think through. Because let's be honest, we're all human, and when it really comes down to it, humans are stupid and say stupid things. So what are some things not to say to a friend who has chronic pain? What should we remove from our vocabulary?
Oh, that's a good one. It's all in your head. It is not in my head. It's all over everywhere else in my body. Doc has it in his head with his migraines.
Right. It's in my head, but not yours.
My personal favorite platitude is God doesn't give us more than we can handle, which is theologically inaccurate, first of all, because he does.
Yep.
He doesn't give us more than he can handle.
Amen.
And just telling people that is just, it's defeating. It's like, oh, I'm not enough. Stop. When people tell me to stop complaining and just look at all my blessings, I want to tell them, I know my blessings. I know how blessed I am. There are so many gifts and blessings that we have in this country and in just this area of ministry we work in. And of course, in our families. But my blessings don't discount my struggles. They don't make them go away. And they definitely make them worth fighting. I fight my struggles and I fight through the pain because my babies are worth it, because my kiddos, my buddies at our church are worth it, because my friends are worth it. I'll fight through the pain, but that doesn't take away the pain. I think my favorite is, well, if you just lost 50 pounds. I think that there is a view there that is slighted. First of all, you don't know somebody's medical history. I have a medical reason why I'm bigger, and I'm not confident about it. And it is what it is. But also, it's just rude. Frankly, it's disrespectful and it's rude. And the fact is, even if I were a size 2, I would still have nerve pain.
Right.
It wouldn't go away. Just like yours being a chipped bone spur.
Right.
It wouldn't go away if you lost weight.
Nope.
It'd still be there. And it's disrespectful, and it minimizes our pain down to something because people want us to be able to fix it. So if we can give them this one fix and they do it, then I fixed it and you don't have to be complaining at me anymore. And the other thing is don't doubt whenever I tell you I can't. Just respect the no, because one of the things chronic pain has taught me is boundaries. This is a no for today. And then I think lastly, you don't look like you're in pain. It's not Jesus, it's not Christ-like, but there are times I want to look at people and be like, you don't look like you're stupid. But here we are, because it's ignorant to say that. It's just like looking at somebody who has an internal issue and be like, well, you don't look like you have liver failure. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there.
Right.
And it's something that, I knew with my boys, they don't look disabled. They're both autistic. It's not one you see. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't affect them. And in the same way, just because I don't look like I'm hurting doesn't mean that my day is not consistently impacted by my pain. Do you have any that you would add to that?
No, I think you hit a lot of them there. Yeah, I think just bottom line, be caring, you know, offer yourself up, see what you can do for someone. Don't allow someone with chronic pain, don't allow that to affect a relationship. You can still be friends with that person. It may just change how that friendship goes, and you may have to be more flexible. But if you're friends, wouldn't you want to do that anyways for your friend? And just be willing to do that. But
add one thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just something that, and instead of the what not to say, something to say are things like, I'm proud of you and I love you. And I don't want to hear that I'm an inspiration because ew, but I want to hear that I've made an impact. I want to hear that you're stronger because you know me, because I think the word inspiration has become a platitude in a lot of people's lives. I want to know that my suffering helps somebody.
Yeah.
And I think that if that's true for people, if there's somebody I have helped, then I want to know. And I just encourage you to tell your friends, you've made me a better person because I've learned this. And I've been able to help more people because I know this. And, you make me smile, you make me laugh. And I'm so thankful you're my friend. We need to hear those things too, because our brains are telling us we're not enough.
Yeah. Ask them to go out to coffee, do something, just still do things. But yeah, you mentioned my favorite one, and I just want to say it again because it's said so many times. And it's a lie that is straight from the pit of hell. And it's the statement, God never gives you more than you can handle. It is lie. You said it, there's nothing biblical at all about that. And I truly, firmly believe God purposely gives us, each and every one of us, more than we can handle. And here's the bottom line. It's because he doesn't want us to handle it. He tests us to see. And here's how it's supposed to work. We need to focus on what we can actually control and what we can actually do. And we focus on that. And then guess what? We give everything else back to God. Lay it at his feet and say, God, I'm going to focus on this. You take this. You know what? I can't focus on, my migraines. I can't focus on my back pain because there's nothing I can do for that besides, make sure I get my shots every 3 months on that. But instead, I give that to God. Instead, I focus on all the other things that I do have control over. I've got control over, what? I'm not going to be down on my knees for a long period of time because one, I know now I'm getting older. I can't get up anymore. I'm going to be hurting, and that's going to trigger my back from going. So I know I can control some of these things in my life and do that, but it goes with every area of our life. But don't ever say that to someone. I know it's a different topic, but it's very, reminds me, again, just how people say stupid things. It's very much like when my son passed away. At the time, the wife of our senior pastor told me, Doc, I know exactly how you feel. My dog died 2 years ago. And, she thought she's trying to be helpful in that, but that's not. I'm like, oh my gosh, you just compared my son to your dog. People say stupid things. And the reason they say stupid things is when they're uncomfortable and they don't know what to say. And chronic pain is very much like the grief. They don't understand it. When you don't understand something, you end up saying stupid things. So don't talk about the pain then, and talk about other things. And I'm not saying ignore it, but treat them like a person, a human being, because they still are a human being. And they're created in the image and likeness of God. and they're still a person, they're still a son, a daughter of God. And we need to remember that and treat them as such.
I think you hit the nail on the head there. The fact is, if it's a platitude, it's not going to help. It's not going to help. And if it's coming from pride, it's not going to help. So if it's not humble and loving, then don't say it.
Yeah.
Just to narrow it down, really, you know, we need to know that you've got our back and that you love us as we are.
Right.
And I think that's that.
All right. Well, we're coming to the top of the hour. Let me just make a couple announcements. Meanwhile, I'll give you a chance to think of any final words you'd like to say for us. But again, thank everyone for spending time with us. We'll get this put up on our YouTube page. So if anyone would like to share this or watch it again, it'll be there for you. Couple of announcements, especially ministry leaders out there. We're getting ready for summer camp. We're going to be doing our SOAR summer camp, and we're doing a virtual one this summer that is going to make it real easy that especially any church throughout the world, you can do a disability summer camp at your facility, and we can work through you. You can make it a VBS, however you want to do it. So we can do all the heavy lifting for you. Let us know. We're opening registration February 28th. We're doing 3 camps in the greater Kansas City area. So if you're in our area, you can do that. We've got ways you can actually earn a free camp by doing fundraisers. Check out our website, wonderfullymadekc.org. That's our conference, but check out our website for our camp and everything, and that's soarspecialneeds.org. I got too many things on my brain. There's my brain fog kicking in and my short-term memory loss, like I said. Other things, if you've got idea for a topic you'd like to have or see on Talk with Doc, please let me know. You can just email us at info@soarspecialneeds.org, and we'd love to get that on and see about that. Or if you've got a possible speaker that you'd like to have with us, let us know. For the conference, the Wonderfully Made Disability Conference, we're getting ready to start working on that, and we are working on that. If you'd like to be part of our planning team and helping us develop the conference, let us know there too at info@soarspecialneeds.org. Again, if you're really appreciate these Talk with Docs and would like to help us in supporting it, you can go to soarspecialneeds.org to help support that /donate to make these continue to go on. So with that, again, Joanna, thank you so much for being here. Any final parting words you'd like to share on chronic pain and come alongside those with it?
I would say that just accept the fact it's okay not to be okay, that it's okay to struggle. And then lastly, anybody who wants to show support to people with chronic pain, seems like such a simple thing. You're going to have to trust me here. Share this video, because knowing we're not alone will make a big difference. Knowing that other people face what we face will make a big difference. And that's just one simple 10-second way to show that you care and you support this community. That's right.
So this video will be going up later on our YouTube channel, SOAR Special Needs. And then it's also on our Facebook page, SOAR Special Needs. So with that, I want to thank you, Joanna, for being a part with us today on this very important topic. Thank you for your transparency, for your honesty on this. We appreciate that, and we'll can appreciate your friendship as well. So with that, we'll see everybody later. And as always, come soar with us. Have a good day.